Today we are letting you in on 7 bizarre facts that actually happened in World War I. 7. We all love a good nose job or a certain enhancement, but did you know that plastic surgery was actually born out of World War I due to the horrific long-lasting injuries that soldiers sustained? This all started by a doctor named Dr. Harold Gillies. He is considered one of the pioneers of modern plastic surgery and made significant contributions to the development of plastic surgery as a specialized field of medicine. It was through his work during World War I in treating soldiers with facial injuries. Harold Gillies was born in New Zealand in 1882 and received his medical degree from the University of Cambridge in 1906. He then served as a surgeon in the British Army during World War I and was responsible for establishing a specialized unit for the treatment of facial injuries at a hospital in Sidcup, Kent. This unit was known as the Queen's Hospital for Facial Injuries. This hospital went on to become a center for the development and refinement of plastic surgery techniques. Many surgeons from around the world would come and learn at this hospital. Gillies is known for his innovative techniques, including the use of skin grafts and the development of the tube pedicle flap, which allowed for the transfer of skin and tissue from one part of the body to another. He also published a textbook on plastic surgery of the face, which became a standard reference in the field. Due to the horrific nature and style injury that soldiers sustained, which was due to burns or explosions, his procedures would then allow them to go on with a normal life. Overall, Gillies made significant contributions to the development of plastic surgery as a specialized field and is remembered as one of the pioneers of modern plastic surgery. 6. No matter your race or social standings, you were to fight in the war for your country, and World War I had everyone involved. Many African Americans and American Indians volunteered to serve in the military, and of course many more were drafted in. There was no way to escape unless you went to jail or fled the country. African Americans and American Indians served in a variety of roles during the war, including as soldiers, sailors, and support personnel. Many also served with distinction during the war, earning numerous awards and accolades for their bravery and service. African Americans played a significant role in the war, both in the military and on the home front. They did, however, serve in segregated units, such as the 369th Infantry Regiment, which became known as the Harlem Hellfighters. The 369th Regiment was also one of the first American units to arrive in France and saw combat on the Western Front. They were known for their bravery and were highly respected by their French allies. Many Native American tribes, such as the Cherokee, Choctaw, and Comanche, also contributed soldiers to the war effort. With their skills and natural ways with the land, the Native American soldiers often served as scouts and were highly valued for their ability to navigate and communicate in foreign environments. In total, over 12,000 Native Americans served in World War I. 5. Amongst the carnage, smoke, and never-ending lice, Dr. Dolittle was created by English author Hugh Lofting as he fought in the trenches. When Hugh wrote home to his family, he could not bring himself to speak about what was really happening, as the truth would have been too horrific for his children. So instead of speaking about how he had gone from a normal dad mowing the lawns on the weekends to now using weapons and constantly in fear of his life, he spoke of a magical man who could communicate effectively with all animals. Were his stories a subconscious way of wishing he could speak with his enemies to put a stop to the never-ending horror? Who knows? Hugh would go on to write many letters home to his children that featured the adventures of a kind and wise animal doctor named Dr. Dolittle. The letters proved to be so popular with his children that Lofting decided to turn them into a series of books. The first Dr. Dolittle book, The Story of Dr. Dolittle, was published in 1920 and was followed by numerous sequels. 4. The Chinese Labor Corps played a very crucial role for the Allies. Have you ever thought about who filled all the sandbags you see in war photos? Who fixed the railways and roads when damage happened? Well, a lot of it was the work of the Chinese Labor Corps. The Chinese Labor Corps was a force of workers specifically recruited by the British and French government to work behind the front lines in World War I. These special corps were formed in 1916, after the Chinese government agreed to send workers to Europe to help the Allied powers with their war effort. This was all due to the lack of laborers in each country, as all able-bodied men had all been recruited by respective countries. Approximately 140,000 Chinese men were recruited from rural areas of China and ultimately were sent to France to work in a variety of roles. This included building roads, repairing tanks and airplanes, loading and unloading ships. The men were initially attracted by the prospect of earning wages that were much higher than what they could earn at home. Despite the importance of their work, the Chinese labor corps was not always treated well. Many of the laborers were paid less than their European counterparts and were housed in overcrowded and poorly maintained barracks. There were also instances of racial discrimination, and many of the laborers died while serving in the corps due to disease and accidents. Overall, the Chinese labor corps played a vital role in supporting the Allied war effort during World War I, but their contributions have often been overlooked and forgotten. 3. Deserters, thieves and various homeless men moved into the trenches when the trench soldiers moved on. Not a place that I would want to call home, but it has been said that once the fighting had moved on and the filthy trenches were left silent, another tenant arrived. These men moved in and only came out under the cover of night to steal, kill. No, they were not vampires, but simple men who had deserted the war. Criminals who had nowhere else to call home in the ever-changing war grounds. It was not until a Lieutenant Colonel Arden Arthur Hume Beeman wrote a memoir, The Squadron, in which he described a barren place called No Man's Land between the trenches as populated by wild men, British, French, Australian, German deserters, who lived there underground, like ghouls among the mouldering dead, and who came out at nights to plunder and to kill. If war was not horrible enough, imagine if you stumbled back the wrong way and instead of the enemy or your troops you find yourself facing a starving criminal who is living in abandoned dugout tunnels. 2. Fathers fighting on the front lines while mothers worked in factories or tended the farm. The children wanted to do their part as well. It was then that most of the children donated all their pocket money and savings to various war funds. This money was well spent, and there would be massive turnouts with children and their prospective piggy banks. Other organizations would also step up, and one of these was the Boy Scouts. They did not simply sit around making campfire potatoes, but many young boys would assist soldiers and other officers in charge. They were responsible for keeping watch, hiding in sneaky spaces around various cities where they would watch railways and the important phone lines. It was their job to report any suspicious activity. People also relied on these young men during air raids, especially during the chaos of the sirens going off and trying to make sure everyone made it safely into the bomb shelters. It may blow your mind, but the youngest person to enlist was in fact a 12-year-old boy. His name was Sidney Lewis. We need to state it here, but in the United States, the minimum age for enlistment was 18. In the United Kingdom, the minimum age for enlistment was 19. Although boys as young as 15 were able to join the army with their parents' permission. During August 1915, Sidney's parents had absolutely no idea their son had enlisted in the army at the tender age of 12. Sidney went on to serve in the Battle of Somme, but by the age of 13 he had advanced to a machine gunner with the 106th Machine Gun Corps. His mother finally found out where her son was when a fellow comrade was home on leave. Like any good mother, she contacted authorities to get her son home. Of course, he was discharged and then received the Victory Medal and British War Medal. Young Sidney promptly re-enlisted in 1918 and continued to serve in Austria. After the war, Sidney joined the police force and then in World War II became a bomb disposal expert. Finally, after surviving 2 wars, he settled down and ran a pub in Frant, East Sussex. He would pass finally in 1969 at the age of 66. 1. Okay, time for something disgusting, and this involved urine. The soldiers of this first Great World War were subject to chemical warfare for the first time. Of course, they were not prepared for the effects of the chemical warfare agents such as mustard gas and chlorine. To attempt a form of gas mask, the soldiers are said to have soaked their socks in urine. Soldiers would then cut eye holes in their soaked socks to create a mask, thinking this would counteract the chlorine in the gas. This home mask obviously did not work. It actually did the opposite, and many men were killed this way. Hope you enjoyed these absurd facts.